A key theme to Elden Ring is sacrifice. Within the lands between, you can sacrifice blood to gain strength, an eye to gain wisdom, or even your body to enact a ritual of change. The Formless Mother, the Mother of Truth, is an outer god of sacrifice. The Mother of Truth is heavily associated with wombs, blood, and birth. She bestows power upon accursed blood. In a past video, I posited that the Formless Mother is a representation of birth and the sacrifice of self to create another. It has been said many times, but Miquella's cocoon is clearly placed on large hip bones, the cocoon being a place of rebirth, a rebirth powered by accursed blood and sacrifice. Mohg embraced his heritage and wore his crucible horns proudly. His horns, uncut by the omen killers, grew into his eye, and this sacrifice granted him an audience with the Formless Mother to embark on a journey of both self-discovery and delusion. Mohg's crucible heritage is deemed as the omen curse within the Golden Order to besmirch the Crucible. The Golden Order wishes to suppress any thoughts of the Crucible's power to replace them with the idea that the Erdtree is all-powerful, and that rebirth is only possible through the grace of the Greater Will, the grace of gold. The Formless Mother is connected to the Crucible and could be viewed as Mother Nature. Marika's offspring are shardbearers of the shattered Elden Ring. Isn't it odd how many children Marika had, even though she is of Numen descent, which is stated to be a race that is seldomly born? Interestingly, Marika's bedchamber is concealed with a veil. Is this to hide the origin of her children in the same way that she possibly used a concealment veil to hide the origin of where she became a god? The wandering mausoleums are resting places of soulless demigods who are Marika's unwanted children, and we know that the sewers of Lendel are home to unwanted children, deemed as omen due to their perceived curse under the Golden Order's negative association with the Crucible. Child sacrifice is the ritualistic killing of children in order to please or appease a deity, supernatural beings, or sacred social orders. Carthaginian parents ritualistically sacrificed young children as offerings to their gods. Children, both male and female, and mostly a few weeks old, were sacrificed by the Carthaginians at locations known as Tophets. The practice was also carried out by their neighbors at other Phoenician colonies. Dedications from the children's parents to the gods are inscribed on slabs of stone above their cremated remains, ending with the explanation that God or gods concerned had heard my voice and had blessed me. Human sacrifice was common in many parts of Mesoamerica. Huitzilopochtli was a tribal deity, and he represented the character of the Mexican people. He was often identified as the sun, and with warfare, a deity that burned down towns and carried a fire-breathing serpent. When the Aztecs sacrificed people to Huitzilopochtli, the victim would be placed on a sacrificial stone, where the priest would then cut into their abdomen with an obsidian blade. Obsidian is a naturally occurring volcanic glass, formed when lava from volcanoes cools rapidly with minimal crystal growth. The first known archaeological evidence of usage was in ritual circumcisions and the cutting of newborns' umbilical cords. Could the obsidian stones used by the godskin be formed in the lava of Mount Gelmir? The amber egg is crucial when identifying the shardbearers' heritage. Each of these children bear marks of the Crucible. They are all cursed from the perspective of Golden Order fundamentalism. Claws, scales, horns, tails, wings are all aspects of the Crucible, as well as their association with the color red. Many trees within the lands between bear sap, the Erdtree, the Hallowhorn, and seemingly the tree in the DLC as well. Could this tree be the original tree to which the Crucible is often related to? The original red tint of sacrifice? Sacrifice that was stripped upon the removal of destined death? What if the amber egg is not sap of the Erdtree, but in fact sap of the Crucible tree? Marika's sacrifices of unwanted children is mirrored by Rennala, who is accompanied by juvenile scholars. The juvenile scholar set can be obtained by first obtaining the resurrection painting. To these scholars, rebirth is a form of slumber, and with each awakening, memory fades into oblivion. Rennala's sweetings sing her lullaby as she clutches the rune of the unborn, encased in the amber egg. This is the great rune of the unborn demigods, meaning that this was once a source of currently born demigods. The amber itself has strands of red hair, relating to the Crucible. It is also seemingly filled with crystal tears. Crystal tears, like all crystals, contain life of the past, as all life flows through the primeval current. Marika states, "Hear me, demigods, my children beloved, make of thyselves what ye desire, be it a lord, be it a god, but, should ye fail to become aught at all, ye will be forsaken, amounting only to sacrifices. I speculate the sacrifice of her children is crucial to Messmer's plot of overthrowing the Golden Order, returning destined death, and returning the lands between to a natural balance of flowing life. Let's talk about Messmer. We know that he is related to the Black Flame, and that his spear holds a black stone of obsidian related to the Godskin Apostles. The Godskin Apostles' hood made by sewing together patches of smooth and supple skin. The Godskin swaddling cloth states that the Glomide Queen cradles newborn apostles in it. Plus, looking at the noble's chest armor, it appears that there are entities filled within its belly, like they're pregnant with many souls. Did the Godskins graft their suits out of newborn noble skin as revenge for the countless babies that were butchered under the name of the Golden Order? Babies that were hunted down by omen killers, their horns sawed off to hide their Crucible heritage, just like how the concealing veil could hide the Crucible tree, all memories of the Crucible erased, damnatio memoriae. Nobles are the most ancient apostles, and are said to have assimilated in human physiology, not unlike the Crucible, the Erdtree, in its primordial form. There is a Godskin apostle found at the highest point of the Dominula Windmill Village. The villagers appear to be emulating the behavior of the Godskins by skinning people. Nearby the village is the Navy Hood, a piece of clothing worn by expatriated royalty. The Navy Hood gifted to those who departed on missions to faraway lands, from which they would never return. This land they hail from could be a reference to the Shadowlands. As mentioned in a prior video, Ranni and Melina are twin souls that represent the twin bird. The Navy Hood represents Ranni, while the Crimson Hood represents Melina. The noble set has two helms, one blue, one red, both found in places associated with death. The Crimson Hood is gifted to those who depart on journeys without specific orders, to faraway lands, from which they will never return, sort of like Melina's journey to the faraway lands of the mountaintops of the giants to sacrifice herself, never to return. Roderika wears the Crimson Hood and is a spirit tuner. She gives strength to the spirits of the past that have been absorbed in the lands between and are summonable near rebirthing monuments. Roderika reminds Smithing Master Hugh of his daughter because Hugh is a representation of Radagon, and Roderika is a representation of Melina and Ranni. Melina, like Roderika, is a seemingly lost soul. Melina mentions that she is not born of a mother, but was born at the foot of the Erdtree. Her statements could be a reference to her being birthed via the sap of the amber egg. Ranni did not wish to be a puppet for the greater will. In order to escape it, she enacted a grand sacrifice. A sacrifice that involved the burning of her physical vessel, transferring her ironically into a puppet. Melina, meanwhile, sacrifices her body into the fire of the Forger Giants, both willing sacrifices related to fire. Let's pause on this puppet part for a moment. This could be visual evidence that Ranni's part in the assassination of Godwyn was that of a puppet within a greater scheme, an ultimate sacrifice of the shardbearers. Just as the colored hoods represent Ranni and Melina, the feathered talismans of the Deathbirds, aka Twin Bird of Death, come in both blue and red as well. The feathered branch swords state to render up a death worth offering, a sacrifice worth offering. Melina sacrifices herself to channel the flame of ruin, shattering the illusion of the Erdtree. The one who walks alongside flame shall one day meet the road of destined death. The forge of the giant's flame never dies. It remains smoldering. The staff of the guilty is made of smoldering branches. Could the Crucible and the Formless Mother be one and the same? Another interesting tie between the Crucible and the Formless Mother is that of Radagon. It is assumed that Radagon used Thorn sorcery to seal the Erdtree as he attempted to repair the Elden Ring. That being said, inside of the tree, Marika is impaled. Could Messmer have played a part in this punishment? Radagon's icon is that of red roses that have been altered white, symbolizing his silver tear transformation. The rose's thorns have been removed, just as his fangs and claws were removed. His necklace contains red glintstone. His eyes have been sacrificed into talismans. He is the Red Champion. Quick side note, I have Messmer on the mind, and I wanted to briefly discuss Euron Greyjoy. Euron is from Pike, the Iron Islands, and he is known as the Lord Reaper of Pike. Pike has an Irish and English root, and could mean spear. Euron's personal sigil was that of a red eye, with a black pupil beneath the iron crown, supported by two crows. He wears a black patch over his left eye, which is nicknamed Crow's Eye. Euron owns a suit of black scale armor with various patterns, glyphs, and arcane symbols. At one point, Euron forces another to drink the Shade of Evening, which results in visions of Euron on a throne of skulls, and then a bloody iron throne, with gods impaled on its spikes. A later vision sees Euron as a kraken-like figure with a tentacled face on the Iron Throne, with a shadow woman by his side. Within Elden Ring, the tentacled face can be seen via St. Trina's emblem. These spiral markings could be the spirals of wind, like Farmazula, or the whirlpools that surround the lands between, all ties to Mother Nature. There are many spirals within Elden Ring, which symbolize rebirth. Trading an eye for knowledge is found in Norse folklore, when Odin sacrifices his own eye to drink from the waters of cosmic knowledge. Sore seals, scar seals, and shardbearers grapes are all examples of ocular sacrifice. Finally, the sigil that Euron uses on his ship, the Silence, is that of 7 skulls and a red spear, just like the 7 shardbearers and Mesmer's spear, red with the blood of sacrifice, as you can see red glintstone peeking out of Mesmer's spear. The cranial vessel candlestand tells a story of how Byrrc severed his own head to be used as a candlestand because he was concerned over the lazy arrogance in which the monks treated the flame. Byrrc severed his own head as a lesson to the others, intending it to be used as a candlestand to light the way of knowledge. The monks here represent the Golden Order faithful. Their arrogance of the flame is referencing the removal of destined death, and Miquella, or Mesmer, could represent Byrrc depending on how the DLC plays out. Miquella's plan could be to lead the light of creation, the Crucible, and Rebirth back to the lands between via an ultimate sacrificial ritual achieved by the Formless Mother's power. The Fire Monk hood shares visual similarities with the Godskin Noble hood, although the Godskin Noble hood holds a purple gem in its chest. This purple is also found on Rennala because it's associated with Rebirth. As mentioned in a previous video, Miquella is heavily associated with the color purple. Miquella wishes to cure the lands between through Rebirth via the Formless Mother, but an ultimate sacrifice is first needed, a sacrifice channeled through each of the Divine Towers to funnel the power of the Crucible back into its original source, the Crucible Tree, via blood magic, akin to a blood transfusion. Blood transfusions are potentially life-saving procedures that can help replace blood loss via a needle. The Candletree Wooden Shield is thought to represent a surreptitious prophecy of cardinal sin. The icon is a tree lit on fire at 7 points, each point for each shardbearer. Each shardbearer is a kin of Marika, sacrificed to the Formless Mother as penitence for her sin of removing destined death. Miquella's ultimate sacrifice of his own kin to the Formless Mother is to create a great rebirth. This idea can be found within the Ancestral Follower belief system. They believe that the horns of long-lived beasts can continue to bud like antlers, again, over and over until the beast one day becomes an ancestral spirit. There are 6 flame pillars in Nokron that must be ignited in order for the Regal Ancestral Spirit boss battle to occur. The shardbearers are represented by these pillars. Godric uses a grafted dragon in his battle. Rykard is inside of a volcano. Ranni has already willingly burned her own body. Margot and Mohg use accursed blood. All of these instances are related to fire. Melania suffers from rot, and during her battle with Radahn, she affects him with this rot as well. What can cure us of rot? Flame. Cleanse me. Once all the pillars are lit, you can enter into the Ancestral Spirit like a portal, similar to how Miquella's cocoon will be used as a portal in the DLC. Ancestral spirits exist as a phenomenon beyond the purview of the Erdtree. Life sprouts from death, as it does from birth. Such is the way of the living. Our Tarnished is a very interesting individual. We have the ability to transform into any other race. We can even transform ourselves into the appearance of the host of fingers using the Furled Fingers Trick Mirror. This talisman, like the mirror we use in the Round Table Hold, is a small clouded mirror that reflects a flesh and blood figure. Mirrors were once built out of silver, like the Silver Tear. The Silver Tear is reborn again and again into imitation. Perhaps one day, it'll be reborn into a lord. This spirit takes the form of the summoner to fight alongside them, but its mimicry does not extend to imitating the summoner's will. Free will is very important here. You must commit the sacrifice of your own volition, just as Melina says prior to sacrificing herself. the player character must wish to sacrifice each of the shardbearers to enact Miquella's grand ritual of rebirthing the lands between through the flame of destined death. Albeit purely a theory, the Tarnished character could be a pawn in Miquella's overarching plan. You awaken to an unknown world where two spectral mysterious figures gift you items related to Miquella and push you to collect the great runes in hopes that you will enact change. A spirit calling bell to grant you strength in battles that may otherwise prevent you from success, and a trusted steed that once belonged to Miquella himself. The Tarnished travels from each region conquering the shardbearers in ritualistic sacrifice. The Greater Will use Colosseums to enact ritualistic brutality in the same way that the Formless Mother used the lands between to enact Miquella's ultimate sacrifice of rebirth. Each of the shardbearers, outside of Renala's room being that of Ranni and Melena's, are associated with the Crucible, and therefore the Formless Mother. Marika claimed these children as her own, and for her retribution, she will now have all of her children sacrificed. The Divine Towers acting as altars for the Crucible, similar to the stone altars from Mesoamerica. Miquella's goal of rebirthing the lands between requires an accord with the outer gods, outer meaning outside of the Golden Order, related to death. The Formless Mother, aka Mother Nature, has been stagnated. Once Radahn has been sacrificed, the stars regain their motion. Fate is once again able to flow as it should. This stagnation is best seen in Farum Azula, where time has halted, the inhabitants all undead. Although Miquella's rebirth may have been interrupted by his premature removal from the Erdtree via Mog's delusional desires, Miquella may slumber still, dreaming of rebirth while encased in his blood-soaked cocoon. Thank you for entertaining my thoughts today, and as always, I sincerely hope you all have a wonderful week.